Hey everybody, welcome to the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Puckle this week. As always, we welcome in a guest, and his name is Kevin Oklobzija. Hello, Kevin. How are you today?
Couldn't be better.
Oh, good to have you back as always. Hopefully we'll get another appearance by your cat. I'm not quite sure if that's going to happen in today's show.
She's pretty good at the cat bombing.
Well, we look forward to hearing from Sochi. Meanwhile, we've got one Mr. Pat Duffy, as always, with the Blue Jays jersey. What's the point of this?
Yeah, pitchers and catchers reporting right around the corner, so I'm trying to get in my baseball mood.
Wait. You're not a Yankee fan or a Met fan?
No, see, closest in proximity is the Toronto Blue Jays, so I cheer for my closest in proximity teams, Bills, Sabres, Blue Jays.
Okay. All right. Well, we will hopefully get to opening day first. But first, we have to start with this double standard that's been going on. One involves either players demanding a trade or organizations now with this new trend where players will be sitting out until they can find the best team to trade for a player. I wanted to ask you, Kevin, what do you think on this sort of double standard of who has the right to do what?
I think it's interesting that, players flex their muscle, owners flex their muscle, and fans suffer. I mean, in the end, that's what happens. So if you're a player, obviously, and you're demanding a trade, well, you're probably in a position of power or a position of somewhat greatness. So your absence is hurting the team. The team then decides you're not going to play. So that's hurting the team. And in the end, teams suffer, fans suffer. So I don't know. Doesn't make any sense.
What do you think about it, Pat? I mean, this is one of the things Draymond Green talked about it. LeBron tacked on top of that the fact that the owners have the leverage here. But it's interesting, this new move by the owners by basically saying, we're not going to play you, but we will find a better place for you in the future.
Yeah, I do find it interesting that for decades and decades and decades, right, when a player requested a trade, he was a villain. When a team did something like this, well, the team was doing what was best for them. Why can't the player do what's best for them? Like, I know Kevin's right. Like, it hurts all of us when all this stuff happens, and it sucks because I just want to see the best sport that I'm watching the entire time. But I do think that we lost sight a very long time ago that these guys, they're doing jobs, these men and women, right? These are careers that they're trying to, compete at. And if you were told by the company you work for, well, you can't go work somewhere else where you're going to be able to make more money and have better opportunities, well, we lose our damn minds. I find it interesting, and I love it that it's starting to come around that we're seeing the player's point of view. And Kevin, to your point earlier, you don't have to be a star to request a trade. Didn't Evan Rodriguez request a trade last season out of Buffalo?
Good point. Good point. Look how it's worked out. He's with the Penguins.
Yes, he is.
Now, if he was with the Penguins of like 16, 17, it would be one thing. But today's Penguins, he might as well be on the Sabres. Not
and
quite.
Sometimes this actually works out. I mean, we've seen a couple players sort of demand a trade on the low, not really say anything, and then next thing you know, they end up on a better team in a better situation. Organization gets compensated. Then we've seen the other end where James Harden did not leave Houston very well, and it leaves sort of a scar on the Houston organization going forward on the way he handled it and the way they handled it.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of put it in the basket of the team should be the one that the team is usually always the villain in this one, because very few times do players go public with trade demands without talking to management ownership first, right? Like if that player hasn't been moved yet, if something hasn't been done, it's because the team hasn't been acting in a quick enough way or they're trying to hold on to this player. Look, man, I mean, it's a game. All of it's a game from top to bottom. And if that player has the leverage, the ability to put themselves in a better situation, I can't fault them for it. Unless, of course, it's the team that I cheer for, in which case, how dare they?
So now that you're wearing a Blue Jays jersey, I have to ask, you've got the start of basically spring training going forward. Are the Blue Jays one of the teams to watch in the offseason into spring training right now?
I always want to say yes, right? Like I do it every year. It's like the beginning of Major League, right? Where it's everyone sitting around talking each other into why it's going to be decent. They made a couple acquisitions, but that AL East, even when it's down, it's not down. You have to pick.
Yeah, but I mean, the Orioles are still no good. The Red Sox are no good. I mean, the Rays obviously are very good because they're scout. I mean, who has a better scouting department than that club? They're always there. They let their stars go. And the Yankees, the Yankees are fine. But I think the Jays are going to be a fun team to watch again. They have some good young players to build around, and I think they're doing that. So they're 85 wins, aren't they?
Look, I mean, fun team to watch and contender in the AL East are two very, very different statements, Kevin.
Well, good point. Good point.
With the Yankees, too, always lurking to try to come back. It's interesting. The teams that look good on paper don't necessarily turn out to be well. And you're right, Tampa Bay.
In the end, does it really matter, though? Can anybody beat the Dodgers? I mean, that's not just an all-star team. It's like the perennial all-star team. It's the all-star team of the decade. They're just loaded. How did they lose? How could they lose?
Oh, look what you did. Save
unless it's turmoil within. It's a powerhouse. It's crazy.
What $250 million payroll will do that for you. This is the Rochester Press Box. We'll do Bills segment coming up next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay and Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko here, joined by Kevin Oklobzija and, of course, Pat Duffy. All right, Pat, the Buffalo Bills season is over, but they got a lot of awards, including their head coach, Sean McDermott, their assistant head coach, who you've been very critical of when Mr. Brian Bowler. Oh, come on. Don't sit here and say you haven't been.
Well, no, but I think it was a fairly critical, like the way you said it, very critical. I think it was fair criticism throughout the season. Look, I think it's fair to ask whether it's Daboll's ideas or the talent on the field that's making this work. I don't want to take anything away from Brian Daboll. Like, there were some things that we saw this season that were amazing. What I would like to see is sustained drives and the ability to show up and show out. Look at the offense during the playoffs, man. Yeah, struggled against the Colts where you shouldn't have. That game against the Ravens without a pick six, that's a very different game. And then we all saw what happened in the AFC Championship game. Look, I like Brian Daboll. I want Brian Daboll to stay around. I think that everybody coming back is very important to this team's development. That being said, you're never as bad as they say you are. You're never as good as they say you are. And I think we're leaning more towards, well, which way did I go? This way, the good, than the bad right now.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on one Mr. Josh Allen, who was up for MVP? I believe he got Breakout Player of the Year and Most Improved Player of the Year. There's only one other award to really win in the NFL if you're a quarterback.
Well, Super Bowl. And I'm amazingly impressed. I like Josh Allen. I mean, he won me over. He won me over last year, not this past season, the year before. I mean, I had my doubts going into that year, but I mean, I like him, and I like his attitude. I like his cockiness. I like that he backs it up. So it's finally, I mean, it is fun, and I'm not a Bills fan. I cheer for no football team. I just like to watch the game, but it is fun that they finally have their quarterback after so many, like, I don't know, 19, 17, however many quarterbacks they tried, thought they found, they have one now. So the fact they have Diggs and other components, I think it's fun. This is great for Western New York. It's amazing just how attitudes change when the Bills are good.
What about Executive of the Year? Brandon Beane, of course, wins that one for the Buffalo Bills. And you mentioned Stephon Diggs, who you have been very, very happy with, Duffy, going forward. I mean, first team All-Pro. He has played extremely well, and he's looking forward to next year. I mean, he's building off of that AFC Championship loss for next year.
But I think what's the most amazing point about Diggs' season so far is he somehow exceeded expectations, trading a first-round pick away to bring him in. Look, as a Bills fan, any Bills fan watching this right now knows how many times have we swung for the fences trying to bring somebody in, and it was nothing but disappointment. And look, the PTSB Bills fan in me was worried we were going to have the same thing, right? Like, somehow everybody forgot that we gave up a first-round pick for this guy because he played that well. Like, you could make the argument he is the team's most valuable player. I mean, it's him and Josh Allen, right? And as far as Beane goes, man, who else is Executive of the Year? Like, the job that he's done over the last 3-4 years to clear the crap they had on the roster salary-wise, to build piece by piece with players that weren't always standout. In fact, look, that's a team full of, even the draft picks, underdogs, right? Matt Milano's going to get paid. That guy's a fifth-round pick. Josh Allen is a quarterback everybody laughed at when they took. Even Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, look, you can say what you want about how he's performing, but he's only 22 years old going into his 4th year in the league. Brandon Beane has done a remarkable job in the front office with the Buffalo Bills.
By the way, how is Josh Allen not the MVP? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I don't get it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had a really good year, and they flopped in the playoffs. And I know they don't award the awards aren't based on the postseason, but the Packers were supposed to be a decent team, maybe even a good team again, and Aaron Rodgers had a good year.
It's nice that I'm hearing this, because every time I come on the show, I got to look at the other guy over here, Tariq. Oh, you think he's the MVP? He's not really the MVP. It's nice to have rational thinking minds here on the show.
I'm kind of worried because I sound like Bill Puckle from last week when he did the invitation again. And number two, I gave credit where credit was due for Josh Allen. At the beginning of the year, I didn't think he was a top 100 player. He turned out to be a top 5 player in the NFL. And I also said MVP is what? A popularity contest. That's how he won. Sorry, Josh Allen will be, listen, the guy next year in the top 5 running for MVP. He's also one of the top people want to draft, too, when it comes to their fantasy football leagues. I think he's got a shot at it next year. I didn't think he had this year, so he is Breakout Player of the Year. This is the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence, filling in for Bill Pucko. Like it or not, coming up next.
Here's the Press Box trivia question brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
All of these things show Josh Allen has a strive for greatness inside of him.
Falcon Around with Carl Falk. New episodes every Tuesday on Rock Sports Now.
Here's the Press Box trivia answer brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us. This segment of the Press Box, like it or not, is being brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law Firm. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Don't go unprepared with less. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today. All right, like it or not, Connor McDavid. We'll start with you, Duffy. This story that Connor McDavid will have, I don't know, about 500 points, 400 games. That puts him on par with Sidney Crosby. Your thoughts, like it or not?
My thoughts would be, at this point in his career, Sidney Crosby was doing a heck of a lot more team-wise than Connor McDavid was. And you know what? It's not Connor McDavid's fault. I feel terrible for Connor McDavid getting stuck all the way up in Edmonton. And it is amazing. When you do the side-by-side, Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel are going to be linked forever. I think what's most impressive about McDavid and Eichel is they are able to get their numbers and they are able to be stars and household names despite the fact that the teams that they play on have been so bad. Even with McDavid, he's got another NHL superstar in Leon Draisaitl on that roster with him, and they can't get anything done. Like Kevin, I mean, you've seen how many NHL superstars show up that were supposed to be something, wilt away inside franchises that wasted them and nobody knows about them. Yet McDavid and Eichel are able to still cut themselves above everybody else without success around them.
Yeah, and I think McDavid's far above Jack, and people across the NHL buy tickets to see Connor McDavid. I don't think Jack Eichel sells tickets in Chicago. I don't think he sells tickets in Vancouver. I mean, Connor McDavid is star power and is an amazing talent, but the Sabres lost out on him. Edmonton got him, and how many cups does Edmonton have since then? And they have had number 1 picks continuously and still have not gotten to the cup finals even. So it takes a whole lot more than one player. He is fun to watch, and his accomplishments point-wise are incredible. But as you said, Sid was already hoisting the cup a couple times by this point in his career, with maybe a little more around him in the right spots on a team. But nonetheless, Sid won and wins.
Kevin, I got to ask you, with like it or not, there was a bit of a shock last week that J.J. Watt not a part of Houston. Houston seems to be, you talk about an organization falling apart.
Seems to be.
Literally, we're only watching from the outside. We don't know how bad it is on the inside. J.J. Watt released. He's been rumored to go to Green Bay. Now, recently, I guess, as the Browns. Right now, as we're recording this, he doesn't have a team. But your thoughts, like it or not, J.J. Watt to the Packers?
Wherever he goes, he's going to be an asset because he's not an every down player anymore, and he's not the dominant player he was. But third down, you need the pass rush. He might be the guy you want, and he can still overpower, and he can still get to the quarterback. And I think what he brings to a dressing room, a locker room, is very, very important. And there are teams that need that. So what he brings on the field and off the field, it's going to be a help wherever he goes, Buffalo.
He's so important, don't you dare. He's so important to a locker room that the locker room that he's walking away from is literally on fire right now. I don't get this obsession with J.J. Watt. I don't
the
get the
locker room's
obsession.
not on fire. It's the front office that's burning. It's on fire because the front office pour the gasoline in and lit the match.
All right, look, if
It's
J.J.
the
Watt
worst
is...
front office going next to the the Arizona Coyotes.
Watch out, you're going to get sued. If you... If I'm going to give credit to J.J. Watt for one thing, it's this. He's really good at hyping himself up because I don't understand the obsession with J.J. Watt. I think there have been better players that don't know how to market themselves as well as J.J. Watt has in the last couple of years. And the reason why you know J.J. Watt is...
You just don't like Subway.
No, okay, I do. Well, no, I am a Subway fan. Thank you very much. How do you know what J.J. Watt's doing if you're not checking out J.J. Watt's Twitter account or all the interviews J.J. Watt is doing? Like, all he does is sit and tweet about what a great person he is. And don't get me wrong, he's done some great things for the community. But listen, he's past his prime. He's always hurt. He's overrated. J.J. Watt has always been an overrated football player because going back to your McDavid argument, if he's such a dominant defensive force, player of a generation, well, what have they been doing in Houston with him for the last couple of years? Because they haven't won nothing. Nothing happened. In fact, a bad Bills team last year took you to overtime and should have beat you. I don't want J.J. Watt. Overrated. Get him out of my face.
The guy likes subs, but has a garbage plate flag behind him. I just want to point that out to you.
Obviously, plates over subs. I mean, everyone knows that.
Rochester.
Of course.
You need to have opinions. Get some opinions, please. It's middle of the road, hugging the fence.
Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. Unfinished business coming up next. You're watching the Rochester Press Box. The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
This is the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko, having so much fun with unfinished business. Pat Duffy kicks it off.
So as of Wednesday, the Buffalo Sabres have scored 15 even strength goals in 12 games this season. 15 in 12 games. And look, this struggle isn't new. It's been happening for years and years and years and years and years. And I'm at the point now, people are ripping into the Pegula family for not knowing how to run a hockey team. But I'm having a hard time blaming them because they've literally, tried everything. They threw money at the problem. It didn't work. They went and hired a high-profile coach who had won before. It didn't work. They went the opposite way. Looked for players they could plug in to play roles. Didn't work. They went and got a coach that was going to be motivational instead of analysis. Didn't work either. Look, there's easy ways to sit back and point to franchises who just don't care. Cincinnati Bengals, for God's sakes, for years and years and years, just put people in the seats to make money. You can't say that about the Pegulas. As bad as the Sabres have been, as bleak as it looks moving forward, I don't know how you look at what they've done, at least as far as roster and behind the bench, and say, well, they haven't tried to do everything they can.
The Rochester sports world, and never played, wasn't an owner, wasn't a coach, but I.C. Shaw was maybe even bigger than Duffy, maybe possibly the biggest sports fan, Buffalo Bills fan that the area has known. I.C. Shaw owned a telecom company, moved here from India in the mid-'60s to go to college, and when he moved to Rochester in 79, started to watch the Bills, and by the time they were going to Super Bowls, he was going with them. He was a die-hard Bills fan. He was a guy who, if you met him in the bar, you weren't quite sure why you liked him, as his son John said, but you liked him. And he knew everybody, and he liked everybody, and he became friends, and he was a die-hard Bills fan. And I.C. Shaw, unfortunately, never got to see the Bills win a Super Bowl. No one has. So let's hope from wherever he's watching next year, they get to treat him a little bit.
We started off the show talking a little bit whether or not it's sort of this double standard between players and organizations, whether the player demands to be traded or the organization decides to just put the player on the bench until they find a destination for him. What about teams that tank? Where is all of this all rank? Well, apparently not a big priority to organizations or players when it comes to fans. See, they're the ones that really are the ones getting the short end of the stick here. I would like to propose a bit of a solution going forward. Everyone commit to their contract to just before the All-Star game. Why? Well, a number of fans already signed up before the end of the season for next season's season tickets. So basically, they're committed to the team. I would just like to see more commitment from the organizations and for the players as much as the fans are. Fans understand when you're moving on for the next organization to move in or come in and bring in the new class of players if they're not going well. They also understand when a player doesn't want to be there anymore. So we get it, but at least commit to what you wanted to through the first half of the season and then make those trades as the All-Star game approaches so that everybody can move on. The organization, the player, and the fan with understanding what the process really is. As always, look forward to talking to everybody again next week of the Rochester Press Box.